I don't think you have issues in finding a girlfriend because you happen to be a cute AF 5'4" manlet. You could really just have a super sour personality that nobody, really wants to be around. And from the looks of it,
So a YouTuber named Joshua just made a 22-minute video about me, calling me a pickme hype maxer. So today I'm gonna dismantle every logical flaw in everything he says. And by the end, you'll be glad there's someone out here representing and speaking up for us guys who hear this kind of gaslighting every day and usually just take it in silence. Now, I'm sure you guys can also see the irony of a 5'5" fellow manlet that has built a YouTube channel around pandering to blue-pilled normies, calling me the one who took the less popular position, the pick-me. Less than a minute into the video, and your argument's already breaking down, Joshua. One of the first things you'll notice here after a while is the fact that it's very clear that Joshua never even took a single look at my YouTube channel. In fact, I think it's going to come as quite a surprise when he finds out that I even have one. Now, it's clear to me that Joshua's trying to be some kind of funny man comedian, and he puts that at a higher priority than research or accuracy. And I get it. Research sucks. It's boring, it's not fun. It takes a lot of time. But I feel like if you've got the time to edit like Mr. Beast, then you should probably have the time to portray the person you're describing in a way that's not completely divorced from reality. But, that's forgivable. I can respect the funny man comedian grind. I can even forgive a degree of failing to properly research the person you're discussing. But just some wisdom for you, Joshua. It's probably not the best idea to go around loosely throwing words like asshole around, directed towards people online that you clearly don't know very well.
this guy is an asshole. He doesn't give a darn about high prejudice.
I mean, the guy misrepresents me in bad faith multiple times. You guys will see what I mean later. This video is just full of sloppy, logical fallacies and contradictions, and I'm going to point out and highlight every last one of them. I mean, the guy may have blown up on YouTube, but regardless, I feel like he has a lot to learn still. And it's time for me to share him some of the wisdom of the elders. Because one thing you shouldn't do when you have such a broad audience as his is dismiss and invalidate the struggles of an entire group of people that might comprise a decent portion of your own audience. I don't think the guy realizes how many members of his audience probably silently agree with me and feel hurt and betrayed by the things he said in this video. I mean, the guy straight up admits that Heightism is real in one sentence, and then in the next sentence, brushes it off as the world's least important social issue. And that little contradiction there, that tells you everything you need to know about where this video's going. Let's get into it.
And I kind of sort of give off great and awesome leader vibes. Most of you have probably even thought, wow, Joshua's gotta at least be 6 to 7 feet. And I need to be honest with you guys. I'm 5'5".
There you go. The guy confirms the existence of height bias by reaffirming the tendency for people to assume that the leader is the tall one of the group, and then goes on to tell us who the real pick-me is. Is it the manlet putting his reputation on the line for little in return? Or the manlet virtue signaling to normies for fat stacks of cash?
Yeah, being short was the bane of my existence, but now, not that much. In fact, funny enough, that's something that I happen to grow out of. Interestingly enough, I happen to find somebody older than me who actually hasn't grown out of it and hasn't grown at all.
I get that you're really leaning on this grown out of it quip like it's some kind of crutch, but the reality is, it doesn't make sense as an introduction to me, as a person and a content creator. As you'll find out later, Joshua is aware that I claim to like being short. Unfortunately, since his only sources are 3 or 4 of my TikToks, his lack of sufficient information has left him making the worst bad faith assumptions about everything I say. And to be honest, it's hard to understand why. Why would your first reaction to me, of all people, be such revulsion? I don't get it. I try not to offend anyone. I guess the message itself is offensive to some people. Isn't that sad? But yeah, if you watched any of the videos from my origin story playlist on YouTube, linked in the description, he would understand that I have, indeed, grown out of my height insecurity at a younger age than most people. That's something I noticed about myself growing up. I always had the worst, most intense emotions and insecurities. It would get so bad that it would eventually reach a peak. I went through intense periods of anguish, but would overcome those feelings at a young age. Other people often don't think about these feelings. They let them fester in the background for decades. But those who feel them the hardest overcome them the fastest.
This guy goes by the name of Chadlet Maxer.
This guy can't even be bothered to get my goddamn name right. Somebody probably just sent him a bunch of clips in Discord and said, "Hey Joshua, this is Chadlet Maxer, and he's a chud."
And he is single-handedly fighting against the war that is heightism.
And I wish I was shorter. Short guys are told to just be confident.
This is how today's world works, dude. If you're tall, you end up getting to go to high society.
But the second we stand up for ourselves, we're mocked. As you can see, Joshua's only referencing my short form content. Content that's highly simplified in order to fit within a 1-minute time window. That's not a good foundation to come away with an accurate conclusion about someone's philosophy on life. When I see a guy who's shorter than me, it feels like he's stealing my place.
As you can see, there is a lot to unpack here. So in the beginning, I thought that maybe this just happened to be a sort of fetish kink page because of the way that he was phrasing his words. But he also happens to post videos like 5'3" Catboy Cute Cell versus 7-foot Dommy Mommy and hypepill on the news about Charlie Kirk.
6'5", right? And walked into a room. It's like, whoa, who's that guy? He's going places. And of course, he already went places.
I can see why someone who comes across a lot of my short form videos might come away with that impression. In my mind, I use that as a way to get attention and get people talking about me. Looks like my plan is finally working. But also, what the fuck does the Charlie Kirk video have in common with the Dommy Mommy video? How does the Charlie Kirk one reinforce your initial point in any way? Seems like a randomly selected example. Unless you're insinuating that there's something kinky about the death of Charlie Kirk.
This is gonna sound crazy. I don't like how this guy positions himself as someone who wants to be shorter because it's an ideal height for him now, solely because it's something that he'd accept more, which is a complete lie. Especially since later down the line, you'll find that he actually has issues with other people being upset at him because he is shorter. So which one is it? You can't say that you want to get short and then get upset when people call you out for being small.
You know, it's pretty funny to see how much I'm confusing you, Joshua. I knew my worldview would confuse the shit out of most people before I started this channel. Now I get to kick back and watch the chaos unfold. The reason I want to be short isn't because it's easier to accept. It's because my brain snapped from the anguish it was experiencing and had to warp itself into an unnatural state to adapt to my situation. It's like the compulsion to pour salt on your wounds. Anyone else have that, or is it just me? And also, why would anyone not have an issue with other people being upset at you for an unchangeable physical characteristic that you have? Isn't that a normal human reaction? Or did the sanity bar shift? You know, you speak with such certainty, saying that me wanting to be short is a complete lie. Oh, the irony. What you just said was a complete lie, bro. Here's a bit of wisdom for you. In the future, try not to make uncertain claims about individuals with such certainty. I can fight heightism and want to be shorter. They're not mutually exclusive. Masochism is a real thing.
I think it's a huge disrespect to little persons who have genetic disorders and medical conditions because they did not choose to be a little person.
Now this is where I felt my blood pressure spike when I first heard it. No one likes it when someone puts you on the spot, forcing you to defend yourself against accusations of offending some group of people the accuser doesn't even belong to. Most people are getting tired of being put on trial all the time. which is why people are starting to give less and less of a shit about being accused of bigotry. Also, the statement doesn't even make sense. I'm disrespectful to them because they didn't choose it? What the fuck? I mean, think about it. How does that make sense? I'm disrespectful because they didn't choose it. Maybe he'll explain more. Probably not. But he's got a Blue Sky account, so now it all makes sense.
There is a ton of videos and a ton of resources that you can find on the internet about little persons and the struggles that they have to deal with concerning their medical condition, concerning dwarfism. And in that process, when it comes to them accepting it, it comes from a process of them learning that this isn't something that I can change. My height isn't the only thing that makes me me. I could do so many things. You know, it comes from a place of growth because that's something that they cannot change. Learning to be happy with your shortcomings, I don't mean it like that, is a part of the process.
Not much to disagree with here. Obviously, being a little person is not an ideal situation, medically or otherwise. And if that's how most of them accept their lot in life, then fair enough. But don't assume they're all the same either. I'd be willing to bet there's a good number of them that snapped and turned masochistic, just like me. That also counts as accepting what you can't change. It's just a different path. But yeah, my height isn't the only thing that makes me either. But you wouldn't know that based off a handful of TikToks. Truth is, you'd be hard-pressed to find many other people who have as much sympathy for little people as I do. And not in a patronizing way either. It legit made me angry when I heard that the new Snow White movie refused to cast actual dwarves as the 7 dwarves. That's their fucking livelihood, dude. Acting is one of the few special opportunities they have access to. Some people, like me, actually enjoy demeaning roles and situations. Just let people make their own decisions.
Chad here saying that he's jealous of shorter people because of how small they are and taking over his role is extremely disrespectful since he only sees a smaller person as someone who is submissive.
I want to be the small, submissive one.
I shouldn't have to tell you this, but small does not equal weak. It doesn't equal submissive. If you had to fight Adam Ant to the death, I promise you won't like the outcome. Shit, if you had to fight 4 little persons and they started standing on each other's shoulders, dude, you're fucked, man.
You say I'm jealous of shorter people, which is correct. But you are showing clips of people with dwarfism as your B-roll. I think Joshua here is under the impression that I want to be a dwarf. People always take things to extremes now, don't they? I've never wanted to be any shorter than 4'10", and I clarified that in my long-form video covering the topic. In fact, I'm pretty sure I even said it in the TikTok you're referencing. Did you even read the on-screen text, or has the skibbity toilet brain rot taken its toll already? And I hate to be the villain here, but the dark reality is, small has basically always been associated with weakness, submissiveness, femininity, scarcity, and low status throughout human history. The respectful thing to do would be to acknowledge that that psychological bias is alive and well and impacts the lives of those on the receiving end of it. Sure, there are plenty of small people who are dominant, and some people out there are down for that. But there's nothing wrong with embracing the role that people assume of you either. Me, personally, I snapped because I could no longer justify fighting against nature. It felt like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Not every man is built to be an alpha. Doesn't mean you can't try. But come on, bro. You're using a fictional character as an example of how small people can be physically dominant in unarmed combat? I mean, it's good to have representation in media, but that subtly implies that powerful small men only exist in fantasy worlds, if you think about it. And equally ridiculous, saying the idea that 4 little persons can easily beat up a tall person in a fight is proof that we're all equally able. That literally implies that a single tall person is more powerful than 3 little people, and they need 4 to take them down. Not the best supporting evidence. But I get that it's difficult to defend a position that's divorced from reality.
But he's, more importantly, he's also 28, calling himself a 5'4" manlet. Look, man, you really got to do better for yourself. Self-affirmations, body positivity. Do something for yourself, man.
I need affirmations? So now, Joshua here is telling everyone who's insecure about their height after years of bullying and rejection just needs to shut up and be positive. That everyone who cares about height prejudice or wants to bring attention to it just needs to perform mantras every day to make it go away. Pray the gay away, so to speak. Remember, when he says this to me, he's also indirectly saying it to you too.
Here's the thing though, I don't think you have issues in finding a girlfriend because you happen to be a cute AF 5'4" manlet. I think that you can't find a girlfriend because you happen to call yourself a cute AF 5'4" manlet. You could really just have a super sour personality that nobody, really wants to be around. And from the looks of it.
And again, Joshua, what you're saying isn't just directed at me, but everyone who watches your videos who also has things in common with me. And now they're probably seeing a comment section full of invalidation and their issues being made into a joke. And now they feel too embarrassed to accept their feelings or speak up for themselves. They probably feel rejected. Well, guess what? I embrace those who feel rejected by the mainstream. Your feelings are real and validated here. And no, being involuntarily celibate in your late 20s does not automatically mean you're a bad person. Great way to kick those who are already down, though, Joshua, and drive them further down the fringe pipeline. But this is the kind of behavior we can expect from someone who links their Blue Sky page and calls it the good ending Twitter.
I think we found our first male pick-me, dude. This is crazy. Scoot over, Chad. Let me get in there.
And here we are, why he picked the title he did, the Pick Me Height Maxer, even though I've only made like 3 height maxing videos. His reason doesn't really make any sense when held up to the smallest bit of scrutiny. I fail to see how he came to the conclusion that I'm a pick me. It was never properly explained. Then he insults a portion of his audience again by displaying this incredibly offensive sign. You hear that, guys? If you can't find a girlfriend, it's not just because your personality is bad. It's also because you're lazy. I get that the sign was directed at me, but many other men were hit in the crossfire. As I said, not properly explained. Does not fit the definition of a male pick-me, which is someone who distances themselves from other men to gain the approval of women. Kinda sounds like what you're doing, broski. I'm starting to feel embarrassed on your behalf. This is getting brutal.
And it's weird that he has looksmacks in there too, because aren't looksmaxers known to be the exact opposite of what this guy is? This guy's submissive, cute AF, while looksmaxers are supposed to be hardcore, bone smashers, women abusers. I don't co-sign it, but that's what they are.
Oh my God, bro. The level of myths and paranoia about the pill is out of control. Looksmaxers all abuse women now? Looksmaxing literally just means maximizing your looks. And yes, I've been looksmaxing since like 2018. It just started slow and never went as far as some people take it. But clearly I keep myself well-groomed, have a skin routine, and try my best not to gain weight. Anyone can looksmax. Even you.
29, short, aging cute self, burned out. I wasted my 20s grinding and failing. No girlfriend, ever. Stuck in my childhood room. My only hope was success online. And now even that's being taken by guys 10 years younger. Time is running out. So now he's 29? Does he think that raising his age would higher the chances of him finding a dami mommy?
I guess the dude's never heard the concept of a birthday before. What happened is, the day I was born on passed, and the count of my number of years on Earth went up by 1. How the fuck would being 29 increase my chances of finding a dami mommy anyway? If anything, it would lower it, as I barrel toward twink death.
If you're trying to bring up the topic of heightism, which is a real prejudice ingrained in society, where, just not as popular. Yeah, this is the list of prejudices we have. We got the real top bad ones, and then we got this one right here. It's a prejudice, but not really.
I'm sure this part pissed a lot of you off. I knew it would. Apparently, according to Joshua, the prejudices that are the most popular are always the worst ones. And because heightism is less trendy to virtue signal about, that means it's not really a prejudice. How does that statement make you guys feel? And on top of that, knowing that there are peer-reviewed studies showing that in the 21st century, height has a greater impact on life outcomes than ethnicity, sexuality, gender, or religion. Yet it somehow gets completely ignored. And the people ruling the world have a vested interest in keeping it that way. We've literally got multinational corporations putting chemicals that stunt growth in food products marketed toward new parents and children. How is that not a glaring red flag?
If you want to have a conversation about that prejudice, then have that conversation. But calling it cope when someone gives you examples of short people who are successful, who are strong, and who do positive things, and you just call it cope, to me, that just sounds like you really don't want to hear it.
You know, the problem with all these NPCs in the world is that they're incapable of seeing the forest for the trees. They get locked down on the details, like me calling those examples cope, and are incapable of seeing the bigger picture. The reason why I called it cope. The examples in isolation are not automatically cope. But when they're used to deny the existence or significance of height supremacy, then they certainly are.
And the thing is, we know height prejudice exists because if we take a look at Kevin Hart's career, every role that he has been in, every single joke that he has, or just Kevin Hart in general, his entire life, he's been made fun of because of his stature. In the Scary Movie series, besides the tent scene, he was the short guy that was getting thrown around a lot. When he shot a shotgun in the movie with Ice Cube, he got thrown around because he was short and he couldn't shoot the shotgun, even though I'm pretty sure he's strong enough to shoot a shotgun. Regardless of how over-exaggerated it was, Kevin Hart didn't sit there and start whining about how he's a cute boy, cat boy, or whatever. In fact, he took those to advantages and is probably one of the most successful people his height.
And referencing Kevin Hart, a 1 in a million celebrity who the stars aligned for out of a sea of other people getting eaten up by Hollywood, that because he didn't whine about being a cat boy, which I don't do, by the way, that means we have no reason to voice concern. I don't know about you, but if I was a millionaire, famous person, I wouldn't feel like complaining either. I'm almost 30 years old, bro. I've worked hard too, at least as long as Kevin did before he succeeded. Hopefully the universe teaches you the role luck plays one day, so you can learn proper empathy. Wisdom comes with suffering. You also don't understand me still. I would enjoy getting self-deprecating roles in movies. I would genuinely take those humiliating jobs in a heartbeat and love every second of it. I would bet that I have more in common with Kevin Hart than you do. We both embrace the masochism and love tall, muscular women. Would love to meet the guy, to tell you the truth.
And from my perspective, I do believe that heightism does exist. It's sort of been ingrained into our society since man.
And here you are, acknowledging the existence and history of heightism. Thanks, I guess, even though you said it was the least important prejudice. Now let's see how long it takes you to contradict yourself.
Height is a factor that is used to choose our leaders, but it's also how partners are chosen as well. There are prejudices like that, but then there are disadvantages that most short people will always have in anything physical, anything sports like basketball. It doesn't mean you can't be great at it. Nothing's really impossible. What you're talking about is, I would say, more disadvantages. Let's call them that. So you can say that there's prejudice in politics and that there's a disadvantage in sports.
You can certainly be great at whatever you set your mind to, but you'll always be overlooked in favor of those who have a more optimized build for that activity, especially if they're equally skilled. This is an unfair reality of life. And I think you're a little confused about the differences between prejudice and disadvantage. They aren't mutually exclusive. They have some overlap. For example, you say that there's prejudice in politics, but disadvantages in sports. But that height prejudice in politics is a disadvantage. And one disadvantage faced by short people in sports is the prejudice against them when people select team members. Who's always picked last? The little guy.
But when we get to talking about women's preferences, if she doesn't like short guys, Chad, you're gonna have to respect that answer and stop stalking her like Joe Goldberg. She doesn't want you.
Oh my God. That last part, was another embarrassing fail of a jab at me. All it does is highlight the irony of titling the video "The Male Pick Me." Almost like you're projecting, since I never once said I couldn't respect no as an answer. I've accepted rejection like 50 times so far, and there's never been any problems. I don't blame women for not liking short guys. I totally get it, which is why I give them a taste of their own medicine by only liking tall women. Not that I have a choice in what's attractive to me, but still. Finally, the most effective way of coping with being a short guy, this is what I do, and that is embracing it.
Niche maxing. Niche maxing. Here goes that 1984 newspeak. That's Ingsoc right there. That's a Fed. Niche maxing. Buddy, that's called accepting yourself. It's called loving yourself. But you also said a couple videos ago that you don't accept yourself. And in fact, you want to be shorter.
And I wish I was shorter.
So do you embrace the fact that you're that size and that's never going to change? No! Or do you get upset at other people shorter than you because they get to be more submissive than you? Your words, not mine.
I get it, Joshua. I get it. Big new words can be scary sometimes, but we'll get through this. Niche maxing is not the same thing as accepting yourself. It's basically a word I made up that means leaning into the competitive advantages you have as a man and targeting the women that like you as their type. So if you're a skinny, attractive, small guy, it can be beneficial to looks max your face for the pretty boy look, to optimize your targeting for bisexual, alternative type women. Tomboys, farm girls, goth chicks, hippies, etc. Better to effectively target a minority demographic than ineffectively target the majority. And yes, I do get upset when I encounter men shorter than me, because I want to experience feeling even more vulnerable to and height-mogged by tall, rich girls.
You don't remember that? Like the jealousy flipped and now you hate every single little person in the world because you're jealous of them now and their dwarfism? I promise you, someone with dwarfism or a medical condition that makes them that height would immediately trade places with you any time of the day.
I'm willing to admit it. I'm jealous of shorter guys down to around 4'10". But to clear this up once and for all, I am not jealous of people with dwarfism. I don't doubt that almost everyone shorter than me would love to trade places. I know what it's like to feel that way. But don't make such bold claims about people when you don't really know. But I get it. That's how you keep your viewership up. Wild exaggerations make for a more exciting story. It's funny how when a tall guy acts confident, he's a leader. But when a short guy does the same thing, it's short man syndrome. Short guys are told to just be confident. But the second
I don't think I have ever interacted with anybody, whether friend or foe, no Spider-Man, who has ever said that my confidence in anything that I do, any subject, any art form, is a Napoleon complex or a short guy complex. Never interacted with anybody like that.
You know, it's funny because what you just said doesn't actually prove anything. Everyone knows that people don't always say what they're thinking. They usually save that for the internet. In real life, people want to keep up a facade of not being shallow, maintain that virtuous image. I shared my own experience with that in my video about heightism in the workplace. Link in the description.
Something also to kind of bring to our attention is the fact that the Napoleon complex isn't based off of anything factual. The Napoleon complex is a term based off of British propaganda. Napoleon was average height for his time.
Again, lack of research. If Joshua would have watched my second most popular video on YouTube, he would know I actually agree with this and said the same exact thing about Napoleon. The reality is, Napoleon complex is a very widely used term and is good for algorithm and search engine optimization.
And I mean, most time when short guys are being called out or being made fun of for being short in that sense is because they're kind of assholes at the same time. Two things can be true.
What did I hear? So I guess now short guys all deserve to get bullied? Hear that, folks? Victim blaming is okay as long as it's against short guys, apparently. I mean, I get you were trying to shoehorn me into your Pick Me series, but unfortunately, that term just doesn't fit me as much as it fits you this time around. If you're a short guy who heard what he just said right now, I'd like to know how it made you feel in the comments. Napoleon complex is not a syndrome. It's a double standard.
Chad seems to be bringing up a lot of these topics. You know, he's bringing these to you as somebody who wants to inform you, but from my perspective, it seems like he really doesn't want to do anything about it. You're bringing this to our attention, but do you want to do anything about it? I don't think so. So maybe stop and let the people who do want to do something about it do it.
Don't want to do anything about it? I think toiling 25 hours a week to make all these videos and engage with other disenfranchised young men while also juggling a ton of other responsibilities is doing more than most. Spreading awareness is doing something. I mean, what do you want me to do? March onto the White House lawn? Tall supremacy needs to become common knowledge first. That is my purpose here. The rest will naturally follow as the people are inspired and enlightened by the brutal truth.
Maybe you can't find a girlfriend because you can't spell inferior either. Maybe that dummy mommy's not gonna show up for you because even though she likes her men submissive, she probably still wants somebody who's confident. And it's clear that you're not even confident enough to spell inferior.
That part about how I spelled inferior, that was kind of funny in a dumb joke kind of way. Kind of random. Disconnected. I mean, I wouldn't have to spell inferior that way if every last social media platform wasn't using every single possible opportunity it can to suppress my content by holding me to a far higher standard than everyone else and letting people like you say whatever the fuck they want and still go viral. Makes sense why you don't understand. You haven't been persecuted and have your digital identity blacklisted across the internet. But I'll tell you what, I've had more attention from tall women and women in general since making my Chadlet maxing accounts than I ever have before in real life. Too bad they're not close by, but still. Things are playing out like you made this video on opposite day. I couldn't be more confident about the way I look. Most of my 20s were spent in a near cocky level of confidence. My lower confidence these days is mainly due to getting older and just generally feeling inadequate regarding my accomplishments in life, and fear of aging. But regardless, it all just sounds like more normie, gaslighting, just be confident, bro, bullshit. It clearly doesn't always work. Some guys just get lucky faster and think they have the W riz when they just met the right girl at the right time, and their odds were better due to a variety of factors. Being short is just a mindset. Go manifest that.
This guy's an asshole, guys. This is why he gets... I just bit my tongue.
Instant karma. Or maybe my dark magic is finally working.
This guy is an asshole. He doesn't give a darn about high prejudice. I'll tell you that.
Wow, bro. I'm an asshole, huh? Who doesn't care about height prejudice? What kind of psychopath do you think I am that I'd make 50 long-form videos and hundreds of short-form videos calling out heightism while secretly not even caring? This is like an Alex Jones-level conspiracy, but at least his theories made logical sense.
Because to be honest, you ever seen that comic of where a guy's like, man, I wish I had his bike, and then the other guy's like, I wish, no, wait, not that one, because he was like, I don't want that bike. He had a Lamborghini. It'll be like a skinny girl, and then it'll be like a really big girl, a curvaceous girl, and then they'll both be like, I wish that we had each other's body, or a short guy and a tall guy. I wish that we had each other's bodies.
These comparisons are absolutely insane. To those of you watching, how does it feel to have your permanent bone structure that massively impacts your quality of life be compared with bicycles or weight that can be gained or lost? I don't know, that seems pretty ignorant to me. The most nonsensical example of all is acting like a tall guy would say he wished he had a short guy's body. We all know that almost never happens, unless the person's mentally ill, completely ungrateful, or is a masochist like me who wants to sit on tall women's laps and get treated like an emotional support animal. Almost every time I've heard a tall guy say that in the comments, he was trying to troll me or rage bait for engagement. But I don't even need to say all this. Because I shit you not, this guy completely contradicts himself in record-breaking fashion less than a minute later.
That's just how it works. That has nothing to do with height prejudice, but I'm pretty sure that every short person can agree being shorter would be worse.
As absurd as that just was, and I'm sure many of you are speechless that he actually left that in, I do appreciate that he ends the video acknowledging that being shorter is objectively worse. We need to face the dark truth in order for society to begin to heal. Evil festers in darkness. It must be brought to the light. That's why they call me the light bringer. If you made it this far, go ahead and type based in the comments. It's how I know who watched the whole thing, and it means a lot more to me than you might think. If you want more of this, more dark truths, brutal stories, and calling out the gaslighting that excess males deal with on a daily basis, hit subscribe. We're building a community of shared struggle here. And the video you see on screen right now, the algorithm picked that one specifically for you, so trust it. We'll see you there.